Hello and welcome. You're watching World Business Report and I'm your host Suyash Maheshwari. In global market update, US stocks show a significant resurgence, finding their momentum with a remarkable upswing driven primarily by the robust performance of the chip sector. Now, investors are witnessing a remarkable rebound, signaling a renewed interest and sense of optimism amidst the recent fluctuations.
U.S. stocks closed higher on Thursday, winning back much of the previous day's losses as economic data continued to fuel optimism that the Federal Reserve would ease monetary policy. The Dow added nearly 0.9%, the S&P 500 gained 1%, while the tech-heavy Nasdaq climbed 1.3%. The bounce back in stocks came one day after all three indexes sank more than 1%, snapping a multi-session rally. It was yet another sign of what Nancy Daoud, private wealth manager at Opus Advice First, says has been a central theme of 2023, staying the course.
There were a lot of investors that really kind of gave up in September and October because things were so dismal and everything was really taking a dive. There was a great deal of volatility. But if you didn't stay the course, if you are not fully invested over the last 6 weeks, up until Tuesday, of course, if you got out in October, you just missed a period of 6 weeks where the market rose by 15%. And that could make a dramatic difference for your lifetime, actually, not just for a year or two.
In company news, shares of Micron Technology jumped more than 8.5% on signs of a memory chip recovery in 2024 after one of the most significant downturns in years. American electric vehicle makers Tesla, Lucid Group, and Rivian Automotive rose between 1.6% and 3% after a report said the U.S. was considering tariff hikes on Chinese EV manufacturers. And shares of Nike, up about 1% at the close, shed about 11% in after-hours trading after the company missed quarterly sales estimates due to a weak North American wholesale business and feeble recovery in China. In economic data, a Commerce Department report showed the U.S. economy grew at an annualized rate of 4.9% last quarter, revised down from the previously reported 5.2%. It was still the fastest pace of expansion since the fourth quarter of 2021. Friday brings the Commerce Department's crucial personal consumption expenditures, or PCE, report, the Fed's preferred inflation gauge.
Now, amidst the complexities of the financial landscape, Nancy Daoud, CEO and private wealth advisor of Opus Advice First, echoed steadfast mantra for 2023, stay the course. This approach emphasizes the importance of consistency and resilience in investment strategies, urging clients to maintain a steady path despite market fluctuations, promoting long-term growth and stability. Listen in.
So long-term investing is very important because if you don't stay the course and have time in the market, instead of trying to time the market, you could really lose significantly. I mean, and they could never be recovered in some cases. So I think the best demonstration of that is during this year. There were a lot of investors that really kind of gave up in September and October because things were so dismal and everything was really taking a dive. There was a great deal of volatility. But if you didn't stay the course, if you are not fully invested over the last 6 weeks, up until Tuesday, of course, if you got out in October, you just missed a period of 6 weeks where the market rose by 15%. And that could make a dramatic difference for your lifetime, actually, not just for a year or two. So I think it's really important to not only think about when you're entering, but also how long are you in it for. Typically, at least 4 to 5 years or longer is the time frame for being a positive returns on stocks.
Now, anticipation swirls among economists and analysts as discussions intensify around the possibility of a potential economic phenomenon coined the Big E slated for 2024. Now, speculations abound regarding the potential impact and dynamics of this speculated event, sparking both excitement and caution within the financial circles.
Investors, economists, business leaders, and consumers all share a common hope for 2024: rate cuts. Some economies like the UK and Eurozone could have to wait until later in the year due to stubborn inflation and strong wage growth. But others, like the US, may see them as early as the spring. Here's Reuters economics and financial markets editor for the Americas, Dan Burns.
Well, some borrowing costs for consumers and businesses have already started dropping just in the expectation that policymakers at central banks will cut their interest rates in 2024. Now, will they keep dropping at that rate? That's unlikely, but it's a pretty strong expectation that home loan costs, credit card costs, business loan costs are going to be lower in 2024 than they are right now.
After starting 2023 with annual inflation rates that were on average 3.7 times the 2% target shared by most developed economies' central banks, the pace of price increases is now down to 1.5 times that target.
Now, if at some point inflation stops improving, that's going to make central bankers edgy and less willing to bring down borrowing costs. But if the kind of progress that we've seen on inflation in the last few months holds course, that will give confidence to central bankers to begin lowering borrowing costs in the first half of the year.
But a major game of chicken is underway as market actors have set expectations for far more easing than central bankers may be willing to provide.
The Federal Reserve, for one, recently forecast 75 basis points or 3/4 of a percentage point in interest rate reductions over the course of 2024. Financial markets, the bond market, interest rate futures markets, are now pricing expectations for 150 basis points, essentially twice what the Fed itself is forecasting. At some point, one of these parties has to be right. Potentially, they meet somewhere in the middle. But somebody right now is going to be disappointed. And, if recent history is any guide, it may be markets are a little bit overextended in their optimism for how far rates are going to drop next year.
But the key to it all rests with inflation. As policymakers have said, they're willing to stomach some level of economic pain to finally return price pressures to their target levels.
Now, flight attendants across the industry are spearheading a fervent push for transformative changes in salary structures. This movement aims to redefine compensation, advocating for landmark shifts that reflect the crucial roles and responsibilities shouldered by these professionals, potentially reshaping the industry standards.
Thousands of flight attendants in the U.S. and Canada are attempting to upend the airline industry, demanding a fundamental shift to their labor contracts that could lead to big pay increases and higher costs for airlines. They're hoping their employers will follow the lead of Canadian airline Transat, which this week presented a tentative contract to workers that pays them for what cabin crews have long dubbed free work. Hours of time spent boarding passengers or waiting in airports in between flights, tasks for which they are currently unpaid. The demand for salary restructuring marks a major departure for an industry that has paid cabin crews mostly for when an aircraft is in motion. Among those demanding boarding pay, flight attendants at Southwest Airlines, who rejected a contract deal earlier this month that did not include the provision. As one Southwest flight attendant told Reuters, quote, "We are cleaning up diapers and we are cleaning up vomit without being paid." The carrier did reach a $12 billion deal with its pilots on Tuesday, the details of which were not disclosed. United flight attendants, who demonstrated nationwide last week, have also demanded pay for their time on the ground. Their counterparts at Alaska Air are seeking similar concessions and have decided to hold a strike authorization vote early next year for the first time in 2 decades. But unions say the airlines are pushing back, sometimes proposing longer work hours instead of higher pay. A union rep for American Airlines says the company is open to boarding pay only under certain conditions. American spokesperson said its proposal, which includes boarding pay, will boost salaries of flight attendants by 20%. The company's union has asked for a 50% increase in wages over 4 years. According to one research firm, offering boarding pay alone will inflate annual airline wages by more than $700 million. But holding the line on costs risks fueling staff resentment and turnover that could cost the airlines unwanted travel turmoil.
Now, Toyota's stock takes a significant downturn following a safety scandal involving Daihatsu, sending ripples across the automotive sector. Now, concerns mounted over the repercussions of this setback, raising questions about the safety protocols and their implications for both companies' reputation in the market.
Toyota shares slumped Thursday as the auto giant faced a deepening safety scandal. The problem originates at subsidiary Daihatsu. On Wednesday, it said it would stop shipments of all vehicles indefinitely after a safety inspection uncovered irregularities. An independent committee found issues with 64 models, including 24 sold under Toyota's brand. The investigation began after Daihatsu admitted in April it had rigged side collision safety tests. Daihatsu said Wednesday it didn't know when it would resume shipments and warned the impact on earnings would be substantial. Analysts said the damage to Toyota's earnings would likely be limited given the carmaker's size. The bigger impact could be for Daihatsu's suppliers, with a supply chain in Japan made up of more than 8,300 companies. Japan's government criticised the firm and said it would consider penalties. It said it could go as far as revoking the carmaker's production certificate. Daihatsu said it would consider financial support and damages for its suppliers. Separately, Toyota said it would recall 1.12 million vehicles worldwide, mainly in the US. It's to fix a faulty sensor that could cause airbags to not deploy as designed. Shares in the firm dropped 5% Thursday.
Now, with the calming of volcano, Icelandic evacuees cautiously returned to their homes, surveying the aftermath and assessing the impact of the recent volcanic activity. Their vigilance and resilience stand as a testament to their determination to rebuild and restore normalcy in the wake of the natural upheavals.
A great crack in the ground shows where a volcanic eruption threatened the Icelandic fishing town of Grindavík, though lava flows missed the only town close by. Evacuated residents checked on their homes and collected belongings on Thursday, returning briefly for the first time since it happened. The 4,000 residents of Grindavík, about 25 miles southwest of the capital Reykjavik, were evacuated in early November because of intense seismic activity. Guðjón Emil Gartharsson doesn't expect to be allowed home imminently.
How this is, I don't think, not soon, but maybe in the future, hopefully, but we'll just have to see because the crack goes through the town. So we'll just have to see if it's going to survive.
Scientists who flew over the area said lava flows had continued to diminish, and no volcanic activity was visible, 3 days after the volcano spewed lava and smoke high into the air. Thorstein Einarsson says he'll come home as soon as authorities let him.
My future is here. I will be here, and my kids will be here, and we are going to do everything we can to make this town good again.
The decreasing lava flows have eased worries of a repeat of the international travel chaos caused by ash from another volcanic eruption on the island in 2010. The Icelandic Meteorological Office said on Thursday it was still too soon to declare the eruption over.
And with that, we'll break for a short commercial. We'll be right back with you with World Business Report.
The scale of the attack was something that we were surprised at. David Hadley was a double agent. The Americans did not want him to be fully exposed, so all that he probably shared with the Americans was not shared with us in terms of intelligence. If we had that, I'm sure that we would have been able to deal with the situation far better.
This and more streaming on world's first news OTT, News 9 Plus. Download now.
Welcome back. You're watching World Business Report here on News 9. Now, tragedy strikes in Prague as the city reels from a devastating mass shooting resulting in at least 14 fatalities. Shock and sorrow grip the community as authorities investigate the incident, prompting renewed conversation about the public safety and the prevention of such heinous acts.
A gunman killed more than a dozen people and seriously injured others at a Prague university on Thursday, police said, in what was the country's worst ever mass shooting. The shooter's body was also found in the area. Czech police responded to the shooting at Charles University's Faculty of Arts building shortly after 3 p.m. local time. The gunman was a student at the faculty, police said. His father was found dead earlier in the day. Bystander Ivo Havranek told Reuters what he saw.
In the beginning, there was a couple of bangs. I didn't even realize it's a shooting. Then suddenly there were students and teachers running out of the building. When I got through the crowd and I realized that there are the policemen, fully equipped with the automatic rifles, covered in Kevlar helms, Kevlar vests. I realized that, okay, this is something going on, this is wrong.
An email sent to staff and students said the shooter was in one of the buildings. Video from the scene showed armed police on the street and people hiding on the ledge of a building. Police sealed off the square and the area adjacent to the building, located in a busy part of town. Gun crime is relatively rare in the Czech Republic.
Moving on, renowned K-pop sensation G-Dragon makes headlines with the announcement of an ambitious initiative, the launch of an anti-drug foundation. With a focus on advocacy and education, this venture aims to address critical societal issues, leveraging G-Dragon's influence to promote awareness and prevention. Listen in. Celebrated designer captivates audience by epitomizing empowerment through the captivating costumes of Poor Things. Each ensemble serves as a powerful symbol reflecting the designer's commitment to empowerment and inclusivity within the fashion industry. Take a look.
This is Bella. Bella, this is Mr. McCandles.
Hello, Bella.
My vision came from the script and from Bella, from trying to kind of understand how, or trying to find a sort of way, a language for her, a way of dressing her that would sort of tell the story of her evolution, really.
She's an experiment.
Good evening.
Her brain and her body are not quite synchronized.
We really went for the shoulders. You know, they're all about empowerment. They're almost like lungs. They're full of air. She's a reanimated woman. They kind of distort the proportions of the body, so they kind of alter her physicality. So there were lots of good reasons for using them.
Now, Daniel Levy, known for his comedic prowess, embarks on a poignant journey with the film Good Grief, showcasing a departure from his usual genre. The Shift promises a compelling narrative that explores deeper themes, inviting audience to experience storytelling in a profound and introspective light.
I've been here for you. We built you the nest, and we sat on you for a year.
I was dealing with some grief in my life, and I was very confused by it, and I didn't know what it meant, and I didn't know if I was feeling enough, and that I realized in talking to friends and in talking to strangers that was a question that a lot of people have asked of themselves in those hard times, and it felt like really fertile ground to explore in terms of a movie.
I wanted to thank you both for this year. I would like to take us to Paris for the weekend. We all deserve some joy.
Yes, thank you. Where are we staying? You must miss him.
It's complicated.
Yeah, love is that way.
Now, in a creative adaptation to weather challenges, a Belgian town innovates by relocating its festive ice rink into a historic church. This unconventional move aims to preserve the holiday spirit by providing a unique experience, demonstrating resilience in the face of adverse weather conditions. The heartwarming Christmas play Pastorela not only uplifts spirits but also serves as a guardian of Mexican history and traditions. Through its rich storytelling, the play offers a cultural journey. Take a look. And countdown to 2024 begins. Giant 2024 arrives in Times Square ahead of the New Year's celebration. The arrival of the monumental 2024 in Times Square sets the stage for an anticipated New Year Eve spectacle, marking the commencement of festivities. The number 2024 will light up at midnight on December 31st.
Like all great Broadway shows, we have understudies. So what you're looking at is the understudies making their debut in Times Square, the 2, 0, and 2. They will not be up there. We're just going to be hoisting the 4 up, and they'll be on standby just in case they need to jump in for the performance.
I've been coming out every year since I think 2018 or 2017. I can't remember anymore. 2016? I don't know, whatever it is. I just happened to be working actually like out here, and I was like, oh, what's this thing going on? That looks fun. So then I took a picture, and then every year I look forward to this because it's like, oh my goodness, I could see the countdown without actually being in Times Square on New Year's Eve, and I don't have to worry about the crowds. I don't have to worry about the adult diapers, and I can count down to Happy New Year and be comfortable and still use a bathroom.
In years past, we've used gasoline-powered cars, obviously, because number one, we didn't have a big SUV like the EV9, and the charging infrastructure just wasn't there. But it's 2024 is going to be a much better year for electric vehicles because of the way it's becoming much more mainstream.
That's all we have for this edition of World Business Report. I'm Suyash Maheshwari, signing off.
वर्ष 2070 तक भारत नेट जीरो का लक्ष्य